Our first movie on the list is 28 Days Later.
Yep.
Directed by Danny Boyle, 2002, starring Cillian Murphy. This set the stage for the new versions, the new class of zombies in terms of fast-moving, animalistic. Fast-moving had been done before, but not like on this scale and not as realistic. But Danny Boyle took it to a new level.
Yeah, for this movie, it's the first time I've seen a zombie movie where I was legitimately terrified of these zombies. They seemed like real monsters. Because otherwise, I mean, yeah, they've moved around pretty quickly in the past, but ultimately, the zombies were like, I didn't have that fear of them, unless like maybe they jump scare you. But with this movie, if there's a zombie in the room, you're like, oh, fuck. Oh, shit.
Because he did that whole rage zombie.
Yeah, the eyes, and they're just insane.
So like there's a big debate whether this is actually even a zombie movie. Some people think that it's not.
It could be rabies, some people have said.
Because people say that to classify as a zombie, you have the being has to have died or be dead. Technically, they're not dead because they just get, like you said, they contract like the rage disease, the rage infection.
It starts with that monkey scene in the lab.
But that's not fun.
Yeah, come on. It's a zombie movie.
It's a zombie movie. Let's have a good time here, right?
Yeah. Don't gotta get super technical over here.
My God. But this movie, it kind of opened up the genre and made it in demand again.
Yeah.
Because zombie movies were huge in the 60s, 70s, like Romero and everything.
But they got very cheesy and they kind of lost their edge.
Yeah, and so this one brought it back.
They lost their bite.
It's like a 5 million pound budget. Pounds, it was English production. Let's go, people. And it made like over 80 million. So obviously it showed studios that there's a demand for zombies. The audience wants to see this for good movies. And also it opened up the door for a lot of other zombie movies to come out that we've seen.
Yeah.
And I love what Danny Boyle did with this movie, specifically the feeling of isolation you feel, which you never really seen on that scale.
Yeah.
In terms of the shots that they get in London, where they shut down the bridge in London.
Yeah, they shut down that bridge, and they actually only had it for an hour. And because Danny Boyle actually shot this film digitally, it's one of the early major films that were shot digitally. They set up the scene and the set. And they put, I think, over a dozen cameras in all different parts of that bridge in that city, just so that they can get enough footage of Cillian crossing that bridge like once or twice, because that's all they had time for.
Yeah, they had like an hour or two at like 4 a.m. But it's just a crazy shot because like you believe that people are isolated in these horror movies, but like to really see the scale of a real place, a real highly populated place like that, completely empty.
It wasn't CGI.
Completely airy.
Yeah.
And speaking of digital filming, he did both digital and film on this movie. So he would film mostly the zombie sequences with the digital cameras because it has that gritty, grimy look.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the fast action pace stuff. But then like
shutter.
The somber scenes, the toned down scenes he shot on film.
Oh, okay.
So he actually used both film and digital on this movie. Which is, I think he might have been one of the first people to start doing that, besides Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, and like digital cameras were shit back then. I'm sure it was HD quality, but like it wasn't even good as HD we have now.
Yeah, it's almost as bad as like, obviously we were watching Ocean's 13 recently, and Soderbergh just shot with these like high ISO digital cameras. You can see so much noise and like injects the contrast and like low lighting situations.
Yeah.
And that's 2000 and what, like 10, Ocean's 13?
Oh, yeah.
Might have been like 2010 or something like that. And we're talking 8 years before that. And I mean, what was he shooting on DV cameras? Like, Jesus Christ.
A Canon 6D.
I mean, when I was in college in 2008, we were shooting on these crappy HD DV cameras. But I mean, it got the job done. And I mean, if you got to save money on a very low budget film, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. And it's got a great cast because Naomi Harris is awesome in it. And then Brendan Gleeson pops out of nowhere. They go to his apartment. And I think it was probably the best zombie turn that we've seen in a long time is when Brendan Gleeson turns into a zombie, when that blood like drops onto his eyeball
from the crows.
Yeah, and he's just like starts freaking out. That was terrifying, honestly.
Yeah, the way they turn is scary as hell.
And it's so quick.
Yeah, it's really quick. All you need is the blood to enter your system like real quickly.
Yeah.
And then the cool thing that Danny Boyle did is so like, he brought this speed aesthetic, this animalistic aesthetic, and in order to show that really well on camera, he hired athletes to play the zombies.
Oh, wow.
So legitimate athletes. That's why you can see like these things are powerful. They're fast. They're quick. They're agile. You watch the movie.
You can't outrun those things.
You can't run these guys.
Yeah.
And like that part, whenever anyone's getting chased, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah,
there's
the
no
part
way.
when they're rushing the car after the grocery store and the horde's like coming through the tunnel. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty scary stuff.
It's great.
And the transformation of them it's pretty unique. Whereas like they're not like decaying flesh again because they're not dead. It's just like those eyes and then like the rage and the blood and everything, and just they completely lost their humanity.
Yeah, and then it went into that third act with the soldiers that take them in, and it had this really great metaphor about how these soldiers became as bad as the monsters. They became monsters of their own when they tried to take advantage of the woman and try to kill Cillian Murphy.
Yeah,
like they were monsters. Just like the zombies were monsters.
That's a common thing we're going to see in these zombie movies.
Yeah.
Is what happens with humans interacting with themselves after the outbreaks.
In these crisis-like situations, just like now.
And like one more thing I want to talk about is John Murphy's "In the House" in a Heartbeat was like the track used that like famous song. Whenever you think of this movie, it's just like an iconic song, and I think in the horror genre and the zombie genre, and it's like so recognizable too. And it's that song at the end when Cillian's like saving everyone from the soldiers and stuff. Yeah. But I love this movie. It's my favorite zombie movie. If you don't think it's a zombie movie, lighten the fuck up.
Yeah,
relax.
It's zombies.
It's a great time.
I think this set the stage for the new era of zombie movies, and it matured it, and it made it more exciting. A lot like how they rebooted Bond with Daniel Craig. They made it a little bit more realistic and more gritty, and more believable.
And he's blonde.
Yeah. So that's the thing that I think older zombie movies, they're great to watch, and I'm sure when they came out, they were pretty intense. But for us growing up with the kind of movies we grew up with, when we watched those, it's like not totally believable.
They're outdated.
Yeah, they're outdated. But with this, it's like you believe that these are real.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate effect of the movie, I think.
Those old ones, they're great, but like again, when you watch them, the special effects, you're talking about like the 60s and 70s. They didn't have the top stuff. They weren't digitally enhancing things. So you got to take it with a grain of salt when you watch those if you're not used to those kinds of movies. You just like accept the storyline, focus on the characters, and you eventually accept what's going on in terms of like the way it looks and the aesthetic and the filmmaking process, because at that time that was top-notch stuff. But like now when you watch it, like if you show a millennial like Night of the Living Dead, they're like, what the fuck is this movie?
This is stupid. They're just pull up TikTok right away.
All right, let's move on to our second favorite zombie movie,